In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, may the peace, blessings, and mercy of God be upon you. Mr. President, allow me to congratulate you on assuming the presidency of the Council this month. We thank you for quickly responding to our request to convene this meeting. We especially like to thank Algeria, Pakistan, Somalia, the UK, and France that asked for holding this meeting on our behalf. We also thank Ms. Rosemary DiCarlo, Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, for her briefing. We thank the Council members for adopting the press release today. We appreciate your solidarity with Qatar that we heard in your statements after the unjust Israeli attack on Doha that the press statement has condemned. The attack occurred on the soil of a main mediator. The statement stressed the commitment to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar in line with the principles of the United Nations. We address the Security Council today in light of a dangerous escalation which constitutes a threat to international peace and security and regional peace and security. This is why it is at the core of the mandate of the Security Council as per the Charter. The Israeli attack, an unjust attack, at 3:45 on Tuesday, the 9th of September 2025, targeted a residential area allocated by the state to the negotiating teams. This is part of our ongoing negotiation efforts. These residencies house the negotiating team of Hamas and their families. The residential areas are known to all those who are engaged in negotiations, even diplomats and journalists that have held meetings with the negotiating team knows where these residencies are. We take measures to verify what happened, and it turns out that the casualties included Arif Bado, Saad Mohammed Ad-Dosi, who was 22 years old. He was martyred on duty. A number of civilians were also injured, and members of internal security forces working in the compound, they're receiving now medical treatment. We are trying to identify the identity of those affected. It was a residential area, and the attacks terrorized those who live there. This area houses schools and houses different diplomatic residencies. The attack is a violation of the sovereignty of a state member of the United Nations. This attack is far away of the civilized behavior by states that believe in peace. Qatar is making tireless efforts to save lives, and this attack puts the international community before a test. Israel, led by extremists, bloodthirsty extremists, have gone beyond any borders, any limitations when it comes to behavior, not only among states, but among individuals. We're unable to predict what Israel can do. How can we host Israeli representatives when they have commit this attack? Have you heard of any state that is attacking a mediator this way? A state that is attacking negotiating teams that are hosted by Qatar, and then the Prime Minister is using shameful justifications and is trying to justify this attack that is condemned by the whole world. The Prime Minister should have recall the model of Taliban. They had a political bureau in Doha, and we had a negotiation channel or a communication channel, and this channel led to reaching an agreement on Afghanistan that led to the end of the war after decades. The US have never targeted the negotiators over these years. On the contrary, the world has seen the success of these efforts in cooperation with the United States under the leadership of Donald Trump to end the longest war in the history of the United States in 2020. This is the approach we pursue. This is the approach that the Prime Minister of Israel is trying to distort. these continued violations of international law, this behavior that undermine all values, prove only one thing, that the current leaders of Israel are arrogant. And they believe that they enjoy impunity. In addition to the genocide in Gaza and the unprecedented humanitarian disaster in the Strip, and the international community has not acted yet, here we are. We can see that Israel is undermining the stability of the region impetuously. Israel is trying to rearrange the region by force. It is using fundamentalist ideas. That is the basis of Israel's behaviors. Israel leaders are declaring that. And they think that only the Israeli population is listening to them, but we're all listening to them. The peoples of the region are not accepting this kind of behavior, are not accepting this narrative. We believe fully in mediation and the peaceful settlement of disputes, and Qatar's role is being appreciated worldwide. Our efforts has proven that our efforts in cooperation with the United States and Egypt has led tangible results. It led to the release of 148 hostages. It has led to providing humanitarian aid to Gaza. It was a glimmer of hope, a rare glimmer of hope in this Gaza. But attacking our territories while we were busy with negotiations has uncovered the intention of Israel. It is trying to undermine any prospect of peace. It is trying to perpetuate the suffering of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people is subjected to unimaginable suffering. It also shows that extremists that rule Israel today do not care about the hostages. This is not a priority. Otherwise, how would we justify the timing of this attack? Because the negotiations were looking at the latest U.S. proposal. The negotiating team of Hamas have been getting together to discuss the U.S. proposal, and the attack occurred. Mr. President, I stand before you today and I urge your august council to bear its historic responsibility. Silence before the law of the jungle and targeting a sovereign country this way undermines international efforts, undermines the prospects of any peace process in our region. The continuation of such attacks does not only target Qatar, it is a clear threat to target any country that is working on achieving peace, and that undermines the trust in the United Nations. The state of Qatar stresses, under the leadership of its emir, may God protect him, that we will continue our humanitarian and diplomatic role without any hesitation in order to stop the bloodshed. At the same time, we will not condone any attack on our sovereignty. We will reserve the right to respond through tools guaranteed by international law. We call for peace, not war. Peace is our approach, and we will not be deterred by those who call for war and destruction. Before your Security Council, we present these facts, and we recall that today we're discussing an attack on all diplomatic efforts to reach peaceful solution. The only way to peace goes through negotiations, and it starts with a ceasefire and the release of all detainees and hostages, and ensuring the unconditional entry of humanitarian aid, and lifting the blockade. Allow me, on behalf of all peace-loving peoples around the world, I would like to be optimistic. We cannot succumb to extremists. We have to continue to pursue peace through the two-state solution, through the establishment of the independent Palestinian state, fully sovereign on Palestinian national soil according to international resolutions. We need two states, two peoples living side by side in peace. This will only be achieved through the adherence of the principles of international law. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency Sheikh Al-Thani for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Mr. President, on September 9th, Israel carried out a precise and targeted strike in Doha. The strike targeted Hamas leaders who for years have planned and directed attacks against Israel many times making these directives from the luxury confines in Doha. These terrorists were the sole target of the operation. The men targeted were not legitimate politicians, diplomats, or representatives. They were the masterminds of terror. They orchestrated the massacre on October 7th, murdering civilians, kidnapping children, raping women, wiping out entire communities. As the smoke still rose from the massacre, even as the attack was still unfolding, Hamas leaders in Qatar appeared live on television, proudly broadcasting their celebration. While Israelis hid in safe rooms, fled from gunfire, and endured murder, kidnapping, and rape, Hamas's leaders feasted and congratulated themselves in real time. These are the same men who called for jihad to escalate the conflict. They called for blood, not peace. They wild terror, not negotiation. And the terror has not stopped. Just days ago, at Ramot Junction in Jerusalem, Hamas terrorists opened fire on a bus stop crowded with children and adults. 6 innocent people were murdered, among them a 25-year-old who had immigrated from Spain, recently married and building his future in Israel, a rabbi who had dedicated his life to teaching the next generation, 2 residents of the community struck down in their own neighborhood. Among the wounded was a woman 8 months pregnant, left to fight for her life and the life of her unborn child. These are not numbers. They are lives, families, futures stolen. When the gunfire stopped, the bus and the pavement around it were drenched in blood. This is what terrorism looks like. Mothers clutching babies, a bus stop turned into a battlefield, a community scared in seconds. This is a reality we face in Israel. Terror raising its ugly head almost every single day. And let this council be reminded, there can be no immunity for terrorists. Hamas immediately praised the killers as heroic and exceptional, later claiming full responsibility for the attack and calling the massacre of innocent people a natural response. There is nothing natural about this. It is terror, pure and simple. Today, 48 innocent people are still held hostage by Hamas. Their families live in daily pain. It has been more than 700 days that innocent people have been trapped in Hamas captivity. 700 days of cruelty and abuse. Hamas has used them as bargaining chips, turning their suffering into currency. But let me be clear, there is no immunity for terrorists. Not for those who commit it, and not for those who enable it. Israel has agreed to President Trump's ceasefire proposal. We are ready to stop the fighting, but Hamas refuses. They keep the world waiting. They are in no rush. They have the time. Indifferent to the human suffering that their delay causes. And who suffers from this refusal? Not the leaders of Hamas, living abroad in the Ritz-Carlton in Doha. They don't suffer, they have the time. But the hostages languishing in their cells and the people of Gaza used as human shields. From the start, Hamas's strategy has been to embed its weapons among civilians. They hide rockets in schools, command centers in hospitals, and tunnels under homes. They put their own people in harm's way, then cry crocodile tears when civilians are hurt. Our fight is with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza. not with the state of Qatar. Israel will continue to take precautions to protect innocent lives. That is the difference between us and those who glorify massacre and terror. Like in the Bible, like Cain in the Bible, who was marked for the murder of his brother, so too are Hamas's leaders marked for their crimes. It doesn't matter where they hide, whether in the tunnel in Gaza or in a luxury hotel abroad. The mark of Cain is upon them. For too long, Hamas leaders have been sheltered not only in Doha, but in Beirut, Tehran, and elsewhere, parading as politicians and statesmen while acting as terrorists. They are treated like celebrities, when in reality, they are commanders of massacre and barbarism. This false disguise of legitimacy gave them freedom to move, to buy weapons, to recruit through so-called humanitarian networks, and to spread propaganda on international platforms that should have rejected them. This strike sends a message that should echo across this chamber. There is no sanctuary for terrorists, not in Gaza, not in Tehran, not in Doha. There is no immunity for terrorists. And yet, here in this Council, some members chose to give Hamas legitimacy, even protection. Israel will not. We will act against the leaders of terror wherever they are hiding. Mr. President, we have heard today in this Council allegations about a breach of the territorial sovereignty of Qatar. But one must ask, where were these concerns when sovereignty was violated by terror itself? On October 8, when Hezbollah launched rockets across Israel's border, when Houthis fired a ballistic missile at Ben Gurion airport, or just days ago, when a Houthi drone crashed into the arrivals hall of Rabon airport, injuring civilians. How can anyone hide behind allegations appealing to the principles of international law while giving legitimacy to those who openly glorify October 7th and continue to plot terror? Mr. President, this brings me to Qatar. Prime Minister Al-Thani, the time for Qatar to choose has come. For too long, Qatar has harbored terrorists, offering Hamas leaders sanctuary in luxury hotels while they orchestrate massacres and terror attacks. History will not be kind to accomplices. Either Qatar condemns Hamas, expels Hamas, and brings Hamas to justice, or Israel will. Mr. President, the world has faced moments like this before. Today, the world remembers the devastating terrorist attacks of September 11th. That tragic day, like October 7th for Israel, was a day of fire and blood. In the aftermath of 9/11, the countries that uphold freedom, equality, and democracy in this Council stood shoulder to shoulder. 2 weeks later, this Council adopted Resolution 1373. It said plainly, no state may harbor terrorists. No state may fund them. No state may give them safe haven. I urge you all to read this resolution. Any government that does so breaks this Council binding obligations. That principle was clear then. It must be upheld today. And when bin Laden was eliminated in Pakistan, the question asked was not, why target a terrorist on foreign soil? No one asked that question. The question was, why was a terrorist given shelter at all? The same question must be asked today. There was no immunity for bin Laden, and there can be no immunity for Hamas. And in facing terror, history shows that members of this council have done the very same. From 2014 to 2022, France struck terrorists in Mali, Chad, Burkina Faso, and Mauritania. In 2014 and 2015, the United Kingdom carried out airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against ISIS. So I ask, if these actions were justified then, why is Israel singled out now? Why are claims concerning sovereignty invoked only against Israel and ignored when others act to defend themselves? Is Israeli blood worth less? The question to ask is not why Israel targets the mastermind of terror, but why they are sheltered abroad, while hostages starve in captivity and Gazans are left to suffer. Israel's fight is not only Israel's. It is a fight of all who believe in democracy against those who worship death and violence, light against darkness, civilization against barbarism, justice against terror. We will continue until the hostages are free, until our people are safe, and until terror can no longer find sanctuary in any corner of the world, because there is no, and there never will be, immunity for terrorists. Thank you, Mr. President.